The night of the burning sky. The first sign that something was wrong came as a whisper, soft, trembling, barely a ripple across the quiet night air of Northwood Valley. It was the kind of whisper no one truly notices at first, a faint droning hum that drifted across rooftops and tree lines like a creature searching for a place to rest. But then the sky lit up. It began as a single spark, a bright pinprick of silver just above the horizon. Commander Rian Holt was sitting in his truck on the Ridge Road, filling out end-of-shift paperwork, when a sudden flash brightened the windshield. He glanced up, expecting maybe a low-flying aircraft or a misfired flare from some irresponsible hunter. Instead he froze. Across the heavens stretched a blazing trail of molten light, cutting downward in a violent spiral. The object streaked so fast that the stars themselves seemed to blur behind it. The hum grew into a thunderous roar, rattling his truck and sending flocks of night birds fleeing from the treetops. "That's no meteor," he whispered. The burning object twisted again, almost as if it were steering, fighting to stabilize itself. Every instinct he possessed, every trained reflex, screamed that he was witnessing a controlled descent gone horribly wrong. Rian grabbed the radio. "Dispatch, this is Commander Holt. I have a high-velocity aerial anomaly descending fast. Possible craft. Prepare all emergency units. Repeat, full response needed." "Copy, Commander." "Is it military?" "No idea," Rian said. "But it's coming down hard." The fiery streak dipped lower, illuminating the entire valley in blinding silver. Dogs howled. Car alarms blared. People stepped out of their homes, staring upward with hands shielding their eyes. Children pressed against windows, watching what looked like a star being ripped from the sky. Then it happened. The object, whatever it was, lost its last bit of stability and plunged directly into the forest on the eastern ridge. The impact came with a deafening explosion that shook the earth beneath everyone's feet. A shockwave rippled outward, sending leaves fluttering and dust clouds rising. Flames leapt up from the trees, forming a crown of glowing embers. Rian slammed the truck into gear. "All units converge on the ridge. Move now." Within minutes, emergency vehicles streamed toward the impact zone. Fire engines, medical vans, military trucks answering the alarm on instinct. The forest glowed from within, lit by an eerie blue-white fire that was unlike any natural flame. Rian parked at the tree line and grabbed his gear. His team, already assembling with practiced precision, looked to him for direction. "Check for secondary explosions," he ordered. "Approach cautiously. We don't know what we're walking into." Mara Vesk, a seasoned medic with sharp eyes and a steady heart, adjusted her helmet. "You think it's an aircraft crash?" "I've seen aircraft go down," Rian said. "They don't look like that." They moved together into the forest, boots crunching over fallen branches and smoking debris. The deeper they went, the stranger the landscape became. A circular stretch of trees was flattened outward as if pushed by an invisible force. Sparks hung in the air, not falling like ash but floating, tiny glowing motes the color of cold moonlight. "What is this?" Mara murmured, holding out a gloved hand as one of the motes drifted past her fingers. Rian didn't answer. He was staring ahead at the source. The thing that had crashed was no aircraft. It was a vessel, sleek, silver blue and split open like a cracked shell. Strange symbols ran along the side, glowing faintly like pulse lines. Sharp fins jutted out at odd angles, some broken, others still humming with residual energy. The ship hummed with an otherworldly sound, a deep vibrating tremor that made Rian's bones ache. His team stood in awe. "Commander," Mara whispered, barely able to breathe. "Rian, this is alien." Before anyone could respond, the ship emitted a sharp hiss. Every soldier lifted their weapon. Every flashlight beam snapped toward the noise. A hatch was opening. The metal folded back slowly, and for a long moment, Rian couldn't see anything inside but shifting shadows and thick smoke. Then a silhouette moved, tall, slender, stumbling slightly as it emerged into the open. The being stepped forward, illuminated by the flickering blue light of its wounded vessel. Gasps spread across the group. It was humanoid but undeniably alien. Its skin was pale, softly glowing like faint starlight beneath translucent layers. Its eyes were large, deep, and shimmering with swirling colors. Patterns of silver markings adorned the side of its face, as if painted by constellations. It raised its hands slowly in a universal gesture of peace. "We," the being said hoarsely, voice soft and musical. "We mean no harm." Behind it, two more figures emerged. One carrying an injured companion, the other limping heavily. All three looked exhausted, frightened, and desperate. Rian stepped forward, lowering his weapon, palm open. You're refugees, aren't you? The lead alien bowed slightly as if recognizing the word. My name is Alindra, she said. We come from the starworld Atrian. Our ship was attacked. We fled. Her voice faltered. Her legs trembled. Mara rushed forward without hesitation. Easy, I've got you, Mara said, supporting Alindra as she swayed. You're hurt. Let us help. Alindra looked genuinely astonished. You would help strangers? Rian gave a single firm nod. Here on Earth, rescuing the vulnerable isn't optional. If you need protection, you've got it. A flicker of relief softened Alindra's luminous eyes. But before the moment could settle, the sky rumbled again. A deep, rolling growl that vibrated through the trees. The same unnatural hum, but louder. Stronger. Closer. Alindra's glow flickered with terror. No, they followed us. Who? Rian demanded. Her voice trembled. The Varkans. Conquerors. Hunters. They do not allow escape. Mara's breath caught. You mean, another ship is coming? Alindra pointed to the sky with a shaking hand. The clouds parted like torn fabric. A massive dark shape descended, cold, angular, glowing with red energy that pulsed like a predator's heartbeat. Rian's blood ran cold. This wasn't a rescue. This was a chase. And the hunters had arrived. Everyone back. Rian shouted. Form a defensive perimeter. Protect the refugees. His team scrambled, weapons raised, adrenaline surging. Alindra clutched Mara's arm. Please. If they take us, we will not survive. Rian's voice thundered through the clearing. Over my dead body. The alien warship landed with a crash. The night of the burning sky had only just begun. The refugees of Atrian, 1,000 words. The ground trembled as the dark warship settled into the shattered clearing, its hull absorbing the firelight like a void. Unlike the Atrian vessel, smooth, elegant, shaped like flowing metal, the approaching craft was built for one purpose: domination. Its armor was jagged and black. Its front was shaped like a snarling maw. Red slits pulsed across the hull, flickering like hateful eyes scanning prey. Rian Holt planted his boots firmly in the dirt. Mara, get the refugees behind cover. Move. Mara didn't hesitate. She guided Alindra and the two other Atrians, one tall and limping, the other wounded and barely conscious, behind an overturned metal plate torn from the crashed ship. The alien material radiated soft heat but offered solid protection. Alindra gripped Mara's sleeve. You must not face them alone. They are ruthless. Deadly. Mara forced a steady breath. Rian's not alone. You're on Earth now. We handled danger together. Alindra's shimmering eyes softened with something like disbelief. No world has ever treated us so kindly. Before Mara could respond, the Varkan warship split open with a grinding screech. Smoke poured out as a ramp slammed into the earth. Then the hunters walked out. The Varkans were towering reptilian beings, their bodies covered in armored scales that shimmered in shades of obsidian and bruised crimson. Each step cracked branches beneath their clawed feet. Their helmets had narrow visors glowing blood red, and their weapons hummed with lethal energy. Their leader, a massive figure with jagged horns curling from his helmet, stepped forward. He scanned the humans with contempt, then spoke, his voice reverberating like metal scraped across stone. Terrans, you interfere in matters far beyond your standing. Hand over the runaways. Rian stepped forward without hesitation. They're refugees. They crash-landed. They're hurt. You want them? You go through us. The Varkan commander turned his head slightly, as if trying to understand such defiance. You choose to shield fugitives from the Empire? You condemn yourselves to extinction. Rian's jaw tightened. No one gets hunted on Earth. Not while we're breathing. The Varkan soldiers aimed their weapons. Rian raised his voice sharply. Hold positions. His own team, 8 soldiers, 2 emergency responders and 3 armed security personnel, formed a defensive semicircle. They were outnumbered, outgunned, facing an enemy from beyond the stars. But not one of them backed down. The commander's helmet glowed brighter. Terrans, your bravery borders on stupidity. Rian smirked. Good. Means you won't see the next part coming. The Varkan commander lifted a clawed hand in signal. And the night exploded. The first clash. Blasts of red energy shot across the clearing. Humans dropped behind tree trunks and rocks, returning fire with kinetic rifles and pulse rounds. The forest erupted in chaos, shattered bark, smoke clouds, glowing sparks raining from the Varkan weapons. Rian slid behind a fallen log, firing precise bursts. Mara, status on the refugees? Stable but terrified, she shouted back. Elindra keeps shielding them. Rian risked a glance. Elindra, though trembling, had raised her staff again. A faint spherical glow surrounded her and the injured Atrians, fragile but present. The Varkans pushed forward in organized formation, their armor shrugging off most of the human shots. One soldier roared and fired at a medic attempting to drag a wounded volunteer to cover. Rian swapped magazines. Carter suppressed their left flank. Carter, crouched behind a stump, unleashed a volley. On it. Even so, the situation deteriorated fast. The Varkans were stronger, faster, more heavily armored. Every step they took pushed the humans closer to the Atrian refugees. That was their goal. Rian saw it immediately. They're not here for a fight, he yelled. They're here to grab Elindra and the others. Elindra heard him, fear flickering in her luminous eyes. We cannot be taken. The Empire will destroy any world that shelters runaways. Mara drew a sharp breath. So protecting you isn't just kindness, it's preventing a war. Elindra nodded weakly. Yes. Breaking point. A Varkan warrior broke through the defensive line, charging with terrifying speed. He swung a massive plasma blade toward Carter. Rian sprinted, tackling the alien mid-charge. They crashed into the dirt, rolling violently. The Varkan snarled, slashing wildly. Rian blocked with his forearm guard, sparks flying. The strength behind each blow was overwhelming. The Varkan wasn't stronger, he was a different kind of predator entirely. Rian headbutted the alien, stunning him for a moment. He fired a pulse round point blank into the alien's visor. The Varkan crashed backward, motionless. Rian scrambled to his feet, chest heaving. Then he heard a scream. Mara's voice. He spun around. A small Atrian child, one who must have been hidden inside the crashed ship until now, had stumbled out in confusion. A Varkan soldier spotted them instantly and aimed his weapon. Rian's heart dropped. He ran. Time slowed, the Varkan's finger tightening on the trigger, the child frozen in fear, Mara reaching out helplessly. Rian dove forward. A blast of red energy fired. The explosion lit the night with blistering heat. Dust and smoke swallowed everything. The light. When the air cleared, Rian realized he was still alive. A shimmering dome had formed around the child, and around him. The Varkan blast struck the barrier and dispersed into harmless sparks. Elindra stood at the edge of the clearing, both hands gripping her staff, her entire body glowing like a star on the verge of collapse. Her voice carried across the battlefield. You protected us. Now we protect you. The glow expanded, wrapping around all the humans, shielding them from the incoming fire. The Varkans snarled and fired again, furious, but their shots bounced away harmlessly. Rian stared at Elindra, breathless. You saved us. Elindra collapsed to one knee, gasping. Your courage gives us strength. With the shield protecting them, the humans regrouped. Carter fired a shot that knocked a Varkan rifle away. Two soldiers tackled another alien to the ground. Mara pulled the Atrian child into her arms, whispering reassuring words. But the Varkans were relentless. As the commander stepped forward, red lights blazing across his armor, he lifted a device from his belt, a jagged orb pulsing with violent energy. Elindra's eyes widened in horror. No. He carries a breach detonator. If activated, it will tear this entire valley apart. Rian wiped blood from his lip. So that's their backup plan. The Varkan commander raised the device high. You should have surrendered the fugitives. Now Earth will burn. Rian readied his rifle. Not tonight. The shield flickered. Elindra was weakening. The detonator pulsed brighter. Mara whispered, Rian, what do we do? He took one deep breath. We stop him. No matter what it takes. The night was far from over. It was only becoming more dangerous. Hunters in the dark. Silence fell for a single, fragile heartbeat. The breech detonator pulsed in the Varkan commander's hand, swelling, shrinking, throbbing with destructive energy. Every flicker of the device cast jagged shadows across the trees, as if the forest itself trembled. Rian Holt watched it closely. He wasn't an engineer. He wasn't a scientist. But he'd seen enough explosives to know one thing. When a device pulsed like that, time was running out. The Varkan commander spread his clawed arms wide. You were given a choice, Terrence. Mercy or annihilation. Rian gritted his teeth. Funny, I thought the same thing about you. Around them, his team tightened their formation. Every human pair of eyes burned with the same unspoken promise. They weren't backing down. The Varkan commander tilted his head. You stand in our way for creatures you barely know. Rian took a slow, steady breath. That's exactly why we stand. The commander snarled. I grow tired of this. He slammed his thumb down on the detonator. A blinding surge of red energy burst outward. Elindra cried out as her shield flared, struggling to contain the blast. The shimmering barrier bent, twisted, waves of pressure rippling across its surface like cracks forming in glass. Elindra, hold on. Mara shouted, gripping the Atrian woman's shoulders. Elindra's glowing eyes squeezed shut. I cannot contain this alone. Her light flickered dangerously. Rian realized the truth instantly. If she fell, the shield would collapse. If the shield collapsed, the valley would erupt in a chain reaction of pure destruction. He lifted his rifle. We take him down. Now. The charge. The humans surged forward. The Varkans didn't expect such a reckless, desperate frontal attack. Humanity wasn't supposed to be this courageous, or this infuriating. Rian sprinted straight toward the commander, weaving between trees as red bolts scorched the air beside him. Carter shouted behind him, Commander, wait. No time. Rian barked. If he didn't reach the detonator before the shield failed, it was over. The commander swung his plasma blade in a wide arc as Rian closed in. The blade hissed with raw energy, cutting clean through a thick tree trunk like it was paper. Rian ducked, barely. The tree fell behind him with a crash. He fired 3 shots in rapid succession. The first bounced off the commander's armor. The second hit a weak joint, staggering him. The third struck his weapon arm, forcing him to drop the blade. The Varkan roared, charging forward like a living avalanche. Rian braced his rifle. But the alien ripped it from his hands and tossed it aside like a toy. The commander lifted Rian by his vest, claws scraping metal plates. You fight well for a primitive, he growled. But not well enough. Rian's vision blurred as the alien's grip tightened. But he never fought alone. A sharp blast cracked through the air. The commander jerked, hissing. Carter had fired a shot that struck the alien's backplate, staggering him. Rian wrenched free and struck the commander across the helmet with his forearm guard. Sparks flew. The alien stumbled backward. The detonator slipped from his grasp and landed between them, still pulsing violently. Rian dove. The commander dove. Their hands hit the device at the same time. A desperate struggle. Back at the crash site, Elindra's shield flickered dangerously. The dome rippled like a dying flame. Mara knelt beside her. Don't give up. Stay with me, Elindra. Look at me. Elindra lifted her head shakily, sweat beading across her glowing skin. I cannot hold this much longer. Mara squeezed her hands. You're not alone. We're all fighting too. At those words, Elindra's light brightened slightly, a small but powerful spark. Terrans, she whispered. Your spirit, it strengthens us. But even strengthened, the shield's collapse was inevitable unless Rian succeeded. Mara looked at the trembling barrier above them. Hurry, Rian, please. The turn of fate. Rian and the Varkan commander wrestled for control of the detonator. The alien easily overpowered him, pushing him down against the torn earth. You cannot stop destiny, the commander growled. Rian glared up at him. No, but I can punch it in the mouth. He released the detonator for a split second, surprising the Varkan, then slammed his fist into the alien's throat, right under the helmet's joint. The Varkan staggered. Rian kicked him square in the chest. Art. The commander stumbled backward, directly into a half-burned tree behind him, cracking the trunk. Rian seized the detonator, rolling away just as the tree collapsed on top of the alien. The commander roared in fury, trapped under the weight. The detonator hummed violently in Rian's hand. He had no idea how to disable it, but he knew someone who might. Rian shouted, Elindra, what do I do with this thing? Elindra struggled to stand. Her voice was barely audible. Break the core crystal inside. How? Rian shouted. Force. Elindra cried. He didn't hesitate. Rian threw the detonator onto a rock and slammed his boot down. Nothing happened. He threw it again, harder. Sparks shot out. A crack formed. The Varkan commander screamed from beneath the fallen tree. No. You do not understand. Rian ignored him. He lifted the detonator and smashed it against the rock with everything he had. The crystal shattered. A blinding shockwave burst out. But instead of exploding outward, the energy imploded, collapsing in on itself before vanishing in a faint hiss. Silence. The deadly pulse vanished entirely. Rian collapsed to his knees, chest heaving. The detonator rolled to a stop, powerless, harmless. Across the clearing, Elindra's shield dissolved into sparkling mist. She fell forward, straight into Mara's arms. "You did it," Mara whispered. "He did it." The Varkhan commander, pinned but alive, let out a furious howl. "You insolent Terrans. You have no idea what consequences you've brought upon yourselves." Rian wiped dirt from his face. "Doesn't matter. We protect who needs protecting. That's the only consequence we care about." The Varkhan commander spat a hiss. "This is not over." He pressed something on his wrist armor. Red lights flashed across the warship. Rian's eyes widened. "He's calling reinforcements." But Alindra smiled weakly. "No, he is retreating. He fears you now." The Varkhan ship lifted off, engines shrieking in fury. Soldiers scrambled aboard as the vessel shot upward, carving a path through the clouds. The hunters fled into the night sky. The forest fell silent again. Aftermath. Mara put a hand on Rian's shoulder. "You okay?" "Not even close," Rian said, chest still rising sharply. "But we're alive." Alindra bowed her head gratefully. "You saved us. All of you." Rian looked at his bruised, exhausted team. "No one messes with refugees on our soil." A quiet moment settled over the clearing. But no one thought it was over. Because far above the clouds, the Varkhan Empire was regrouping. And Earth had just become a problem. Dawn crept slowly over the horizon, brushing the tops of the pines in soft gold. The world looked peaceful, quiet, almost untouched. But inside the abandoned research facility that Ariane Winter and Dr. Lisa Wren had claimed as a safe haven, tension rippled through every shadow. The refugees, now known by name instead of fear, sat clustered near the heating panels. Their leader, a tall woman with silver-flecked skin named Soraya Talon, kept her eyes fixed on the sealed entrance. Behind her, the youngest survivor, Kaylee's, clung to a blanket Lisa had given him the night before. Ariane stood by the reinforced windows, scanning the valley with binoculars. No drones yet. No patrols. Nothing. And that made him uneasy. Lisa approached quietly. "No movement." "Too quiet," Ariane muttered. "Silex doesn't give up." Lisa's jaw tightened. "Then we keep preparing." They had spent all night reinforcing walls, sealing vents, and setting traps. It wasn't much, not against creatures engineered for war, but it was the only chance they had. Ariane lowered the binoculars and turned to face the room. The refugees fell silent immediately. Trust was still shaky, but growing. "Listen," Ariane said. "You told us last night that the Silex Legion hunts your people because they refuse to join their empire. If they find this place, they will kill all of you." Soraya nodded slowly. "They do not accept surrender. And Earth doesn't accept bullies," Ariane replied firmly. "You are guests here. And we protect our guests." A faint shimmer crossed Soraya's eyes, something like gratitude or maybe disbelief. Lisa stepped forward. "If we are going to defend you, we need every detail about the Silex. Strengths, weaknesses, behavior. Anything that can help." Soraya hesitated, then motioned for one of her companions. A quiet, slender man named Hariel stepped up, carrying a metallic sphere the size of a grapefruit. "This," he said softly, "is a memory core. It holds everything we know about the Legion." Ariane raised a brow. "Will it work with our systems?" Hariel looked nervous. "If Dr. Wren can adapt an interface, yes." Lisa smiled faintly. "Give me an hour." The facility had been abandoned for years, but Lisa Wren had always been good at reviving dead technology. While she worked, Ariane patrolled the perimeter, setting tripwires and motion sensors scavenged from the old security room. He didn't admit it out loud, but fear tugged at him. The Silex Legion wasn't just another alien invader, they were hunters trained to track, corner, and eliminate. If they reached Earth in force, humanity would face a nightmare beyond imagination. But this wasn't about the entire planet yet. This was about these people, the refugees who had fallen into their world by accident. Protecting them came first. As Ariane walked along the fence line, Kaylee suddenly appeared beside him, eyes wide and curious. You protect people because it is your duty?" the boy asked. Ariane glanced down. "Duty's part of it. And the other part?" Ariane stopped walking. The forest wind whispered around them. "Because no one deserves to run for their life," he said quietly. "Not on my watch." Kaylee's nodded slowly as if storing the answer like something precious. Back inside, Lisa finally connected the memory core to the main console. A humming sound filled the room as holographic images blossomed in the air. Battlefields, armored soldiers, strange ships, and towering beasts used by the Legion. Ariane whistled. "Okay, that's worse than I imagined." Lisa scrolled through the data, reading quickly. Here weak points. Their sensory plates are vulnerable to vibration. And their armor? It reacts badly to extreme cold. Ariane blinked. Cold? That's right, Lisa confirmed. Extreme temperatures can cause their exoskeleton to crack. A slow grin formed on Ariane's face. Good. Because if there's one thing we have plenty of. He pointed toward the snow-covered forest outside. It's winter. Soraya leaned forward. You intend to use the environment against them? Exactly, Ariane said. We'll lure them into the coldest ravine and make them fight on our terms. Soraya exchanged looks with her people. Humans, she whispered, half amazed. You plan while others hide. You create hope where none exists. Ariane shrugged. It's what we do. But hope shattered an hour later. The first warning came when every motion sensor on the east side triggered at once. Then came the sound, low, metallic, and rhythmic. Marching. Ariane sprinted to the window, scanning the trees. Silhouettes emerged from the fog, tall, armored figures with glowing blue visors. The Silex Legion. Positions. Ariane shouted. Everyone stay low. They found us. Panic rippled through the refugees, but Soraya barked orders in her own language, steadying them. Lisa grabbed her tool bag and rushed to the generator room. If the power failed now, they were finished. Ariane grabbed his rifle and took position behind the barricades they'd built overnight. Soraya, with me? She hesitated. But the Legion? You said you can fight, Ariane snapped. And we need every fighter we have. Soraya nodded sharply and joined him. Outside, snow swirled as the armored Silex soldiers spread out, scanning the forest with active targeting beams. These weren't scouts, they were executioners. Ariane steadied his breath. Wait until they cross the heat boundary. The Silex moved closer. 10 meters. 5, 3. Ariane hit the switch. A massive burst of super-cold liquid nitrogen erupted from hidden pipes, engulfing the front line of Silex soldiers. Their armor cracked instantly, fractures spreading across their exoskeletons like shattered glass. Fire. Ariane roared. Soraya and the refugees opened fire with plasma pistols as Ariane's rifle barked shot after shot. The frozen Silex fell, shattering as they hit the ground. But more kept coming. A towering Silex commander stepped into view, its armor immune to the cold. It raised a massive blade-like weapon and let out a thunderous roar. Ariane muttered, "Of course there's a big one." The commander charged. Soraya moved first, firing rapid bursts at its joints. Ariane followed, trying to flank, but the creature swung its blade, smashing through the barricade like it was made of paper. Snow slammed into the room as debris scattered everywhere. "Fall back," Ariane yelled. "Get to the inner hall." They retreated as the Silex commander forced its way inside, unstoppable and furious. The last thing Ariane saw before the doors slammed shut was the creature's burning blue visor fixed directly on him. It wasn't just hunting refugees anymore. It was hunting him. And Ariane Winter realized something chilling. Earth's first stand against the Silex was only beginning. The heart of the storm. Snow hammered against the sealed doors as the Silex commander rammed its weapon into the steel again and again. Each impact sent tremors through the hallway. Dust fell from the ceiling like sand from a shattered hourglass. Ariane Winter braced his weight against the inner barricade, muscles burning. Soraya Talon stood beside him, plasma pistol glowing in her shaking hand. Even she, calm and composed through most battles, looked rattled. Lisa Rin sprinted down the corridor toward them. The generator's holding, but not for long. Whatever that thing is, it's sending out an EMP field. We're losing power by the second. Ariane grimaced. Perfect. As if he wasn't ugly enough. The metal door bulged inward with a scream of tearing bolts. Kaylee's and 2 other refugees huddled at the far end of the hall. Their faces were pale, eyes wide. They had seen destruction before, but nothing like this. The Silex commander wasn't just a soldier. It was a walking siege weapon. Another slam. Another crack. The door bent like warm clay. "We can't stay here," Soraya said sharply. "If that thing breaches this room, it will kill us all." "We fall back deeper," Ariane said. "To the old reactor chamber." Lisa's eyes widened. "Ariane, that room is unstable. If we trigger anything down there..." "That's the point," Ariane said. "We can turn instability into an advantage." Soraya caught on immediately. "You intend to trap it." "Exactly." The refugees moved quickly, guided by Lisa. Ariane and Soraya stayed behind long enough to drag metal crates and overturn tables across the hallway, slowing the commander's advance by mere seconds. But seconds mattered in a battle like this. As they retreated, the door finally snapped open. The Silex commander stepped through, towering and furious. Its armor was a dark obsidian, pulsing faint blue. Its visor burned with a cold, intelligent rage. It moved with precision, no wasted motion, no hesitation. Arion fired a burst at its sensory plates. The round sparked harmlessly. The creature tilted its head as if annoyed. "Run!" Arion shouted. They sprinted through the twisting halls of the abandoned facility. Behind them, the commander's heavy steps crushed the remains of the barricades. The refugees reached the reactor chamber first, a huge, dim space ringed with rusted catwalks and thick pipes. A broken fusion core sat in the center, inactive but humming faint energy. "Everyone get behind me," Arion ordered. Kaylis tugged on Soraya's sleeve. "What is he going to do?" Soraya watched Arion with a mixture of trust and fear. "What humans always do," she whispered. "Turn the impossible into a plan." The commander entered the chamber, and paused. It scanned the room, sensing the unstable energy field. Arion stepped forward slowly, rifle raised but not firing. He wanted its focus. "Come on," he muttered. "Take the bait." The Silex commander stomped onto the central platform. Arion fired, not at the commander but at the reactor's damaged coolant lines. Sparks ignited instantly. A plume of freezing vapor exploded upward. The commander roared as its armor hissed under the temperature shock. Soraya and the others began firing concentrated shots at the cracks forming on its chest plate. Lisa rushed toward the side console, hands flying across the dusty keys. "Arion, I can overload the stabilizers. But when I trigger it, everyone needs to move. Fast." "How long do we have?" Arion asked. 10 seconds. Maybe 8. Arion nodded. "Do it." Lisa hit the sequence. The reactor chamber lights flickered red. A deep hum filled the air, growing louder with each heartbeat. Frost crawled across the floor as the unstable core began reacting to the intense cold. Soraya grabbed Kaylis. "To the exit." The refugees sprinted across the metal catwalks toward the far stairway. But the commander realized what was happening. It turned toward Lisa. Arion saw it too late. "No, Lisa, move." The commander leaped. Lisa dove aside as its blade tore open the console. Sparks erupted in a shower of blue light. The overload sequence accelerated, faster, more unstable. The commander lunged again, but Arion slammed into it from the side, jamming the butt of his rifle under the creature's shoulder plating. The force rattled his bones, but he held on, pushing with every ounce of strength left in him. "Lisa!" Arion shouted. "Go. Now." Lisa scrambled away, climbing the nearest ladder. The others were already at the exit, shouting for Arion to follow. Soraya yelled, "Arion Winter, leave it." But Arion didn't move. He stared directly into the commander's visor. "You're not getting them," he growled. "Not one." The commander struck him with its armored arm. Pain exploded through Arion's ribs and he stumbled back, gasping. The creature raised its blade, ready for the final strike. Then the reactor screamed. A violent wave of cold burst outward, frost covering every surface. The unstable fusion core neared collapse. Arion saw his moment. He grabbed a loose coolant pipe and hurled it straight at the cracks forming on the commander's armor. The pipe struck dead center. The commander's chest plate shattered like ice. A blast of freezing vapor engulfed the creature. Arion turned and ran, lungs burning, body screaming. Behind him, the chamber erupted with a deafening shockwave of cold, pressure, and shattered metal. The catwalk buckled. Pipes burst. Frost raced across the walls. Arion reached the exit stairs just as Soraya and Lisa grabbed his arms, pulling him through the final doorway. The blast slammed into the sealed door a second later. Silence fell. Heavy. Uncertain. Kaylis ran forward and hugged Arion so tightly he nearly lost his breath. "You came back," the boy whispered. Aaron managed a weak smile. "Of course." Lisa knelt beside him, checking his bruises. "You reckless idiot," she said, though her voice was trembling with relief. Soraya stood, facing the sealed reactor chamber door. "It is done," she said softly. "The commander is destroyed." But Arion, still catching his breath, shook his head slowly. "No. That was just one." Everyone fell silent. "Commanders don't travel alone," he continued. "If one found this place, more are coming." Soraya turned toward him, eyes darkening with worry. "So what do we do now?" she asked. Arion stood despite the pain. His voice was steady, unshakable. "We stop running," he said. And we show the Silex what happens when they threaten Earth. Outside, the winter wind howled, cold, sharp, and rising. The storm was coming. And humanity was preparing to meet it. Rise of the Earthbound Shield. The storm rolled over the mountains with a low, rumbling growl. Snow clouds gathered in the sky like an army preparing for battle. The air itself felt heavy, charged with the tension of everything that had happened and everything yet to come. Inside the battered research facility, Arion Winter limped down the hallway as Soraya and Lisa checked the remaining damage. The blast had weakened the structure, but it still held. Barely. The refugees, shaken, exhausted, but alive, huddled together for warmth. Kaylee sat with his knees pulled close, staring at the sealed door that once led to the reactor chamber. He hadn't spoken since the explosion. Lisa approached him softly. Kaylee, it's over. At least for now. Kaylee shook his head. Arion said, more will come. Lisa's expression tightened. That's why we're preparing. Across the room, Soraya approached Arion. Your wounds are severe. You should rest. Arion shrugged, ignoring the pain radiating from his ribs. I'll rest when the Silex give me a day off. Soraya narrowed her eyes. What you did in the reactor chamber was reckless. And effective, Arion said. Soraya opened her mouth to argue but stopped. Instead she sighed. You risked your life for us. Not for you, Arion corrected gently. For what's right. Soraya studied him for a long moment. Your people do not act like others in the galaxy. He smirked. We're new to the galactic chaos. No one told us we should be scared. And you aren't. Oh, I'm terrified, Arion admitted. But that doesn't matter. Before Soraya could respond, the emergency console crackled with an alert, static, then a high-pitched tone. Everyone froze. Then the screen lit up with a red warning. Multiple energy signatures detected. Approaching. Fast. Lisa ran to the console. The blast from the reactor must have triggered a signal. They traced it. Soraya stiffened. How many? Lisa's fingers trembled. 5, no, 7. All Silex vessels. Fear rippled through the refugees like a cold shock. Arion's jaw tightened. Then we're out of time. The main control room became a flurry of activity. Arion gathered whatever weapons they had left. Mostly rebuilt rifles, plasma cells, and good old-fashioned explosives. Soraya organized her fighters even though most were injured. Lisa set up makeshift defense grids using old equipment from the facility, wiring them to respond to movement. Her fingers flew across the console, sweat beading on her brow. Kaylee approached Arion quietly. Can I help? Arion knelt down, meeting the boy's eyes. You already did. You survived. That's enough. Kaylee shook his head. No. I want to protect people too. Arion hesitated. Something in Kaylee's voice wasn't just bravery. It was determination. Like a tiny spark waiting to become a fire. All right, Arion said softly. Stay with Lisa. Protect her. That's your mission. Kaylee straightened with surprising pride. I will. By nightfall, the temperature dropped sharply. The wind howled like a living thing. Soraya and Arion stood outside near the treeline, scanning the sky. A faint blue glow appeared above the clouds. Arion muttered, That's not moonlight. The first Silex dropship cut through the clouds like a blade. Its engines emitted a cold, metallic hum, deep and unnerving. Behind it, 6 more followed in a tight formation. Soraya whispered, They come for all of us. Arion lifted his rifle. Then we hold the line. Together. Soraya looked at him with something close to admiration. You fight like your world depends on it. It does, Arion replied. Because today Earth fights for more than itself. The dropships descended like hunting birds, landing in a circle around the facility. Silex soldiers poured out, sleek armored figures with glowing visors. Their breath steamed in the cold air. But this time humanity was ready. Lisa activated the defense grid. Hidden EMP mines detonated, stunning the first wave of Silex soldiers. Soraya's fighters opened fire from the rooftops, plasma bolts streaking through the night. Arion fired from behind a snow-covered truck, dropping 2 soldiers with precise shots. The Silex retaliated instantly. Their weapons emitted sharp blasts of energy that tore into the snow, carving trenches in the ground. The refugees fought fiercely, but the Silex were relentless, methodical, calculated. One of the Silex commanders stepped forward, larger, heavier armor, a glowing sigil on its chest. It raised its arm, sending out a signal pulse. More soldiers advanced. Arion realized the danger instantly. They're marking targets. Spread out. Soraya didn't spread out, she charged. Her twin blades, energized with pale violet light, slashed at the commander's legs. Sparks exploded. But the commander recovered instantly, grabbing Soraya by the arm and hurling her across the snow. Ariane sprinted to her side. You okay? Soraya coughed, blood on her lips. Not my best landing. The commander began marching toward them, weapon raised. Lisa's voice crackled through Ariane's earpiece. Ariane, the defense grid won't last much longer. Ariane glanced at the facility. Silex troops were already cutting through the walls with thermal saws. Once inside, the refugees would be trapped. Ariane clenched his teeth. Lisa, can you overload the grid? What? Ariane, that'll create a blast radius big enough to. I know, he said. Do it when I give the signal. Soraya struggled to stand. Overload? That could kill you. Ariane steadied his rifle. Only if I'm standing near it. The massive Silex commander stopped 10 feet away, visor glowing. Its voice was deep and mechanical. You protect fugitives? You deny the Empire's judgment. Submit now or be eradicated. Ariane's answer was simple. No. The commander charged. Ariane rolled aside, firing point blank into its exposed joints. Soraya leapt onto its back, driving her blade into its armor. The creature roared, spinning violently as it tried to throw her off. Lisa! Ariane shouted. Now! Inside the facility, Lisa hit the override. The entire perimeter grid exploded in a brilliant blast of blue-white energy. Snow erupted. Trees shook. The shockwave knocked soldiers off their feet. The Silex commander staggered, armor sparking, energy shield shattered. Ariane didn't hesitate. He aimed. He fired. The shot hit the crack in the commander's chest. The creature fell hard, snow spraying around it. A second of silence followed. Then Soraya whispered, voice trembling. They're retreating. Ariane looked around. The surviving Silex regrouped, then boarded their dropships. The engines ignited, lifting them back into the storm. The battlefield fell quiet. Humanity had won its second stand. Barely. Soraya turned to Ariane. They will return. With more. Ariane nodded, breathing hard. Then so will we. He lifted his rifle and looked toward the horizon, where the sky still glowed faintly from the battle. We're done hiding. If the Silex want a war. His voice hardened. We'll show them humanity isn't prey. The storm raged on above them, but for the first time the refugees didn't fear it. Because Earth had become their shield. And humanity had just begun to rise. When Earth stood tall. The storm passed with the first light of dawn, leaving the mountains covered in a white silence. But inside the ruined research facility, no one felt calm. The Silex retreat was not victory. It was a warning. Ariane Winter stood outside near the treeline, watching as the sun slowly climbed through the cold morning haze. His breath formed soft clouds. His ribs ached. His arms stung where shrapnel had grazed him. But he didn't move. He was waiting. Soon Soraya Talon approached. Her silver-flecked skin caught the pale light, glowing faintly. She looked tired but steady. You should be resting, she said. Ariane smirked. You've been saying that for 2 days. And you've been ignoring me for 2 days. That's my special talent. Soraya stepped beside him. The Silex left, but not because they were defeated. Ariane nodded. They left because they're planning something bigger. Behind them, the refugees prepared the last of their supplies. Some reinforced the walls. Some checked weapons. Kaylee stuck close to Lisa, copying every tool she packed as if learning by watching. Soraya folded her arms. Ariane, they won't stop. The Silex consider us criminals. And now they have seen Earth's resistance firsthand. Ariane turned toward the facility, where smoke still rose from broken vents and twisted metal. We survived, he said. That alone sends a message. Message or defiance? Soraya asked. Both. Before she could respond, Lisa ran out of the building, carrying a small device shaped like a crystalline plate. Her eyes were wide. Ariane. Soraya. You need to see this. They followed her inside, where she placed the device on a table. It lit up with a cascading pattern, blue, red, gold, forming a holographic map above it. This was hidden inside the memory core, Lisa said. Encrypted. It activated when the Silex commander died. The projection zoomed outward into a star map. Ariane frowned. What am I looking at? Soraya inhaled sharply. This is the Silex warpath. Their planned expansion route. A glowing line snaked through the stars, spreading, branching, swallowing systems whole. Lisa pointed to a cluster of icons at the end. This region, these are the next 5 targets. Soraya nodded bitterly. Yes. And the 6th. The map zoomed. A small blue world appeared. Kaylee's, watching from the doorway, whispered, "They plan to invade." Arion's hands clenched into fists. "They're not planning. They've already started." The room fell into heavy silence. Soraya turned slowly toward Arion. "You must understand something. The Silex do not lose. When they encounter resistance, they do not retreat, they regroup. They analyze. And then they return with overwhelming force." Arion stared at the glowing map. A war. A real war. Not just for survival of the refugees, but for Earth. "So," he said quietly, "we warn the world. We prepare." Lisa shook her head. "Arion, if we tell global authorities that aliens are invading, we'll be discredited instantly. No one will believe a handful of freezing survivors in an old mountain lab." "We have proof," Arion said. "Proof doesn't matter when fear blinds people." Soraya stepped forward. "There is another way." Everyone turned. Soraya touched the crystalline plate, shifting the map to reveal a hidden marker. "A sanctuary station exists 5 systems from here. A gathering point for free species resisting Silex control. It is ancient, but powerful." Arion raised a brow. "A resistance alliance?" "Yes. They call themselves the Dawnward Coalition." "Can they help us?" Lisa asked. Soraya nodded. "If we reach them. If we show them the Silex are expanding into this region. They will take action." Arion crossed his arms. "Then let's send the data." Soraya shook her head. "No. Communications are blocked. Only a ship can deliver this message." Arion blinked. "We don't have a ship." Soraya lowered her voice. "We do now." She motioned for everyone to follow her outside. They walked through the clearing, past the facility and down to a wide hollow between 2 cliffs. There, half buried in snow, rested a small triangular craft, sleek, dark silver, barely functional but intact. Lisa gasped. "Is that your escape vessel?" Soraya nodded. "Damaged during the crash. But with repairs it can fly again." Arion ran a hand along the hull. "Can it reach this coalition station?" "Yes." Arion looked around at the refugees. "At least 20 of you. No way this fits all of you." "It doesn't need to," Soraya said. "Only one person must go." Kaylee stepped forward. "I'll go." The others laughed softly, and then stopped when they saw Kaylee's wasn't smiling. Soraya knelt to face him. "You are brave. But this mission requires someone skilled in diplomacy, navigation, and negotiation." Arion added softly, "And someone with training. We need you here, Kaylee's." Kaylee's lowered his head, disappointed but understanding. Soraya rose. "Arion Winter, you are the one they trust. The one who fought for us without knowing anything about us." Arion froze. "You want me to go?" "You are the one the coalition will listen to," Soraya said. "And the one who can warn Earth." Lisa stepped forward quickly. "No. Absolutely not. Arion, you're barely alive. You can't pilot alien tech. You can't leave, I need you." Her voice cracked. Arion placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "Lisa." But she shook her head. "No. I refuse." Soraya gently interrupted. "He won't be alone. I will go with him." Arion blinked. "Wait, what?" Soraya continued. "You will not survive the journey alone. And someone must guide the ship." Lisa looked between them, torn between fear and duty. Finally she exhaled. "If this is the only way, then I'll make sure the ship flies." Hours later the repair work began. The refugees welded, patched and powered up the vessel. Lisa rewired the engine core while Arion loaded supplies. Soraya calibrated navigation. Kaylee's helped in every way he could, handing tools with shaking hands but fierce determination. As night fell, the ship finally hummed to life, soft, tentative but alive. Soraya stepped inside. Arion followed, pausing at the door. Lisa looked up at him, eyes shining. "Come back." Arion smiled softly. "Count on it." Kaylee's raised a small hand. "Bring the coalition. Bring help." Arion saluted him. "That's the plan." The hatch closed with a metallic click. Lights flickered. Engines ignited. The triangular craft rose into the cold night sky, engines glowing bright. The refugees watched as it climbed higher, leaving a trail of silver light. Soraya looked at Arion in the cockpit. "Ready?" Arion took a breath. "For Earth," he said. For all of us, Soraya added. The ship shot through the clouds, vanishing into the stars. Behind them on the ground, Lisa whispered, "They'll return." Kaylee squeezed her hand. "And when they do, Earth will rise." Because humanity had stepped into the stars. Not as prey, not as victims, but as a shield for the innocent. And the Silex would soon learn. Earth protects its own.